Don't Tell Mom, The Babysitter is Dead is currently in limited release in theaters. However, on May 16th, it's coming out on BET+. So to summarize the film, Tanya's 17 years old, is going to Howard in the fall, and for the summer she was supposed to go to Spain with her friends. However, between something happened to her father in the last year so that he's not around, and her mother, Miss Crandall, getting passed over for a job, this leads to her mother having a nervous breakdown, and the money that was supposed to go to Tanya to go to Spain, that ends up going to a trip to Thailand for 2 months for Miss Crandall, so that either A, she doesn't end up killing nobody, or B, her stress levels don't end up taking her out. Now, while she's gone, she leaves enough money for a woman named Mrs. Sturge to watch Tanya and her younger siblings, Kenny, Melissa, and Zach. Unfortunately for the kids, on top of being religious, Miss Sturge is also conservative and is potentially racist. Now, as the title of the movie makes clear, she eventually is not a problem, but with her no longer being a problem, so it becomes a problem of the lack of money that's supposed to get them through the summer. Now, Tanya tries to get a little ride-sharing job, and that doesn't cut it. It does lead to her getting a boyfriend named Brian, but it doesn't lead to the kind of money that can keep her and 3 other kids fed. So, thanks to Melissa and Zach, they make up a fake resume, create this profile for Allain, and she is able to get a job at a major fashion company named Libra under the CEO Rose. And in the process of doing it, she technically stole a job from a woman named Caroline, who was doing all the work of Rose's assistant as a receptionist, and thought this was finally her time. But unfortunately, that's not the case, so she's very much on Tanya's behind. And while the summer is not the exciting thing that Tanya originally had planned, it's clear based off of what her siblings are doing at home, what she's trying to do at work, Brian and Caroline, that Tanya's going to have a lot of stories to tell about this summer when she gets to Howard in the fall. So, get into the review section. Top level highlight is Brian and Tanya's relationship, which I would present is so good, especially because of the way Brian's dialogue is written, that you can see this as a movie that didn't need the association with Don't Tell Mom, The Babysitter instead. It's so good when it comes to the banter and how cute the relationship is that, like almost the entire movie, it feels almost burdened by the instant comparisons that you know are going to come. With that said, there's still other highlights involved, just not as big. One is how the kids grow over the course of the film. For when it comes to Kenny, Melissa, and Zach, in many ways they can feel sort of stereotypical or generic. Kenny smokes weed all day, he skateboards with his friends in the backyard, and can come off lazy. When it comes to Zach, yes, he's this precocious, smart kid, but he's also very much a weirdo and seems like his social skills aren't really developed. And then Melissa, she seems like she's straight out of Addams Family, since she loves violent video games, doesn't seem to have any friends, and despite how things start, things eventually develop to the point where we learn why Kenny assumed this persona after his father died. And you could even Melissa does outright say that a lot of her reactions to her father's death is what led to the girl that we met in the beginning of the film. Zach, his stuff is not related to his father, it's more so just he was naive, and between the babysitter dying and watching his family kind of fighting to come together, at the end of the movie you see that everybody grew, and not just grew as individuals, but also they went from being 4 people who shared a house because they didn't have the finances to live alone, to actually forging a family that looked out for each other and supported each other. The next highlight is Caroline, and that's because Caroline becomes somebody you love to hate, and also you get what she's trying to do and why. Just think about it. Caroline is a woman who earned that executive assistant position, and then some random girl off the street who was supposed to be interviewing for Caroline's position so that she could move up took her spot. And granted, you are pushed to like Tanya, so a bit of you wants to like give Caroline, wish that she would just calm the hell down. But at the same time, you recognize you'd be pissed. You, if you had the time and were willing to make the effort, would probably be the same level of petty. And it makes it so you're torn between wanting to like Caroline, feeling like you understand her, yet at the same time, there's this loyalty to Tanya that makes it difficult to not wish that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Caroline is allowed to be complicated in a way that you may not expect, since she is pushed to be the villain, yet at the same time, she's the best kind of villain because you get it. And in many ways, if you had the opportunity, you would probably go to the same lengths that she did in order to try to show that this girl and I need to switch places or she needs to get fired. The last highlight for us is Rose, and that's because, to be very honest, because we don't know much about Nicole Richie as an actress, expectations for her were rather low. Yet, while I wouldn't say she's a scene stealer, I would definitely say she was a highlight in terms of how funny she was, and in terms of expectations for this film, she was more complicated than you would think she would be. Like, for example, clearly one of the goals of Rose is to be not only a CEO, but she wants to be the cool boss, the likable mentor. Think Jacqueline, Caroline, and The Bold Type, which is a really good show I recommend seeing. It's on Freeform. Should be on Hulu. Anyway, when it comes to Rose, she's trying to be that cool boss, the likable mentor, but at the same time, she's a grown-ass woman. She's someone who's grown tired of the corporate BS, dealing with the board who don't understand how the industry's moving, and at the same time, she wants her love life to progress just as much as her professional career. Yet, there's struggles in that, especially because when it comes to men her age, there are issues. When it comes to men younger than her, there are issues. So, where's she to go from here? Which leads to the low point. I think the worst thing this movie did was use the title of a 1991, some say cult classic, I would just gonna say a regular classic movie. And the reason why it's such an issue is because naturally it's gonna cause issues. One is gonna be comparisons between the 1991 version and this one, of which this one has a lot more cursing, drug use, and then you have to add on top of that, there's a cultural and also a race swap. So, it's automatically going to cause the type of problems where a lot of people may not give this a chance. But what makes it worse is that, and mind you, I have very vague memories of the original film since it came out when I was a baby. And then I think I may have watched it once or twice. More than likely once, not twice, because it doesn't have strong hold on my memory. But tangent aside, I feel like easily they could have cut out the whole babysitter part, made this about Miss Crandall being the type of mom who, with Tanya being the oldest, relied on her heavily, as is established in this film. And you could have made it even more cultural about how the oldest, how Black women, how stressed out they are to the point where, because Miss Crandall has the privilege of being able to get away, she gets away and leaves Tanya to once again take care of her siblings. And you could have gone into the issues of being the oldest, how Black girls don't really get to have childhoods when they're the older sister. And could have took a whole bunch of places to the point where when it came to Tanya getting the job at Libra, when it came to Brian, so much could have been further explored in terms of how mature Tanya came off because she had no choice to growing up. And I don't want to judge the movie by what it isn't, but when you think about all the potential I've had to what it could have been, it really makes you think the whole association with Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead was just about trying to get the foot in the door And I don't think they realized by trying to get their foot in the door, somebody slammed it and left this film limping to a certain degree. But overall, even though expectations may have been admittedly a bit low going into Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, at the very least, I think it's good enough. It may not be good enough to go out of your way to see it in theaters in this limited release, but when it comes on a BET Plus, if you have a subscription, I would say definitely watch it to get your money's worth.